Well, clearly not the report about Iran, but let's touch right on the point. Yesterday in yesterday in Munich, a meeting culminated over the weekend. Several meetings when it comes to, Emily, I'm going to start obviously with you. When it comes to the headway being made between Iran and world powers, and it's looking good for them, so it seems. When it comes to Israel, and things we're going to touch about Bibi Netanyahu in a minute, but when we say it's looking good, is there any information gleaned when the Iranians say that this is the closest that they've reached an agreement, so to speak?
Look, the dynamic of this negotiation over the past 12 months is quite clear. We have seen Iran totally intransigent on almost every issue on the table. They have not budged an inch. Aside from the issue of the reactor in Iraq, where they may have agreed to a reconfiguration that would slow down the ability to extract plutonium, but not stop the ability, just slow it down. Mainly what we've heard from Iran is what they will not do. No dismantlement of centrifuges, no closing down nuclear facilities, no talk of weaponization, no talk of ballistic missiles are the major categories. So what we see in this dynamic, especially ahead of the 24th of November deadline, is that the P5 actually are the ones that are offering more and more concessions to Iran. And this dynamic is very unfortunate as far as the P5+1 demands. The minute Iran sees the other side starting to concede, they're waiting for the best offer. Maybe in Munich, they got an offer that's good enough that it's looking like something that they might accept. But it should not be regarded as something that's moving towards a good deal. And this is not only Israel's concern, it should be the concern of everyone that's worried about nuclear proliferation, especially in Iran.
Especially in Iran.
Let me say, look, there's nothing good and positive that's happening in this negotiation. We have to be very clear about this. And the debate in the United States is beginning to reflect this. There was a very important op-ed that was published in the Washington Post on the 5th of February that was quoting Kissinger, quoting Schultz, about how Iran is maneuvering this negotiation in order to maintain its breakout capabilities. So we have to not be very naive about what's going on. It's not positive. It's not moving towards anything that comes anywhere near being a good deal. And everything that's happening in Yemen should just increase our concern, because we're seeing how Iran is beginning to carry out its hegemonic aspirations for the region. It is carrying it out, and that's the thing. And I'm wondering with you, we're going to be joined by Rebecca Shimoni-Stoli from Washington in a minute, but I'm wondering with you, Emily, before that, because it is establishing its control, or somewhat of a control, on the Middle East. And isn't it the point where actually the United States cannot ignore that, given the invested, agenda that the United States has to be involved in the region, that this is a key player? It's a key player, but in a very negative mode. In other words, thinking that Iran is somehow going to be some anchor of stability in the Middle East, some, axis point that the Obama administration's strategy should be focused on, I think is tremendously misguided. Iran is a force of instability in the region. It's a hegemonic power in the region. It has aspirations that are very negative, or will have negative implications for almost every state in the Middle East. And when that comes together with a state that's aspiring to a military nuclear capability, you have a recipe for a very, very dangerous Middle East. One more word, I think very important to pay close attention to the message coming from the IAEA, from Amano. There's a parallel process here vis-a-vis Iran on the weaponization aspects. Iran is totally uncooperative on that, and Amano is saying this. They have missed a deadline, late August deadline, where they were supposed to give answers to just 2 questions on a long list of questions that the IAEA has about their military activities. Iran just let the deadline pass. It's not paying any price for its intransigence. Secretary of State Kerry didn't even mention it on the 24th of November, that Iran is not cooperating here. Weaponization is the key issue. issue. Iran might also, be aspiring to a nuclear power for civilian needs, but our problem is with the military part of that program. That's where our concerns lie, and here there is no cause for believing that this dynamic is moving in a positive direction.
Of course, Iran will never give up its nuclear aspirations, no matter what, and so would any other country in a similar position.
Right.
That's a given. But Obama wants to be remembered as a great president, one who changed the dynamics vis-a-vis Cuba. Now he wants to do the same with Iran. Is he going to pay too high a price? That's
yes.
Okay, that's a different question.
For sure.
The Iranians are hurting under the sanctions regime, with oil prices falling and all the rest. Perhaps it's an opportune time to get an agreement. But if you believe that they are going to lie and cheat and be devious afterwards, and
no, my main problem is that the P5+1 is not using the leverage they have. Yes, the economic situation is bad. That should be their platform for presenting a much more harsh position toward Iran at the table.
This seems to be moving ahead, and right now, it feels like there's just one man in the world that is chiming in against it. And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
The problem with his very misguided decision to go to Congress is, to my mind, twofold. First of all, his problem is with the administration, not with Congress. So going to speak to Congress isn't going to get him more sympathy for his position. They are basically with him. And not only will it not get him more sympathy, it's obstructing relationships with the administration, obviously. The second point is he's going to the AIPAC policy conference. There are 18,000 people at that conference. He will get sound bites on television. Everything that he could expect from his speech to Congress, he will get from AIPAC. So I am totally baffled by what he was thinking in terms of this decision. It does not advance his interest as far as making his case that the situation is dangerous and that the administration needs to take that into account.
But maybe the electoral campaign is dangerous.
He's under, but even in terms of the electoral campaign, I don't see people really thinking that this is doing something necessarily good for Israel.
The Israeli narrative, when the Israeli prime minister goes and does something against the world, I mean, analysts have said that, not myself, sadly goes to show for the Israeli public that he's flexing a muscle, he's got Israel's interest first and foremost.
I think people are a little smarter than that and really understand that this was a wrong decision, and the prime minister really should think hard about backing away.